Zach, how's Trap 9 treating you, my friend? Been waiting on this one for a while. Wasn't the game announced like right after the anime ended a couple years ago?
No, the game was actually announced before the anime.
Oh, it was one of those situations.
Yes.
Because it wasn't the same thing with like Talk Opt, where the game was announced and the anime came out, I think.
No, that one was anime.
Okay,
and they announced it at the end
I'm
of the
mixing
anime.
my shit up then. So yeah, Trap 9's been floating out there for a hot minute.
Yeah, because it had a trailer in like a Summer Games Fest.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was out of nowhere because I specifically looked at it and was like, oh, this looks like it has the Danganronpa art style, which the story and stuff is by the Danganronpa series writer and whatnot. Not done by the same team because that's a different team. It's a different team this time because this isn't a single, just linear story game. Because if I told you this is a action RPG baseball simulator,
Yeah.
that is the game that it is.
Yeah, and it's got like that pixel art style too. I saw that.
Yes.
Looks clean. I like that approach for it.
Oh, no, it
honestly.
is very clean.
Yeah, it looks. I was checking it out on Steam. It looks very, very clean.
Yeah, which actually,
So I gotta ask. Like,
So-
I know you kind of told me via text, but like, I want to know like, how does it work? How does baseball fit into this in the game?
so
That's the big question I've got.
you remember the anime we watched?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah. Shout out to Anime Plus. Rest in peace.
That's canon. That was literally
Okay.
our villain's origin story.
Okay. All right. So the MC that I said didn't die is dead, and we had our whole story and everything.
Yeah, I didn't finish the anime, but based on context I've gotten from the opening of the game, it didn't end well.
The anime doesn't end well.
It didn't end well.
Okay. Well, good to know.
Because the whole, like, I gotta say, I was trying to look up their name because I can't remember the name of who did.
Action RPG baseball simulator,
Yes.
Steve, is what he said. Steve said, "Defunct baseball what?" Yeah, Steve, it was an anime that came out a few years ago that Zach and I reviewed on Anime Plus, Tribe 9, if you want to look into it.
Kazutaka Kodaka is the original creator of Danganronpa and has a hand in Tribe 9. It's very much the art style and everything, and hits on stuff that is in Danganronpa in their other game, which I can't remember right now, that released on Switch. But it's very atmospheric because the opening of the game is just...
I would hope so with how the anime, kind of framed the city and
Yeah.
stuff.
more or less, it opens up with just a room with a black screen, or not a black screen, with a TV screen, like an old, I can't remember what they're called right now, but a back TV screen with a back, just a stack of games and like a console, an old style console there. And it just sort of starts up, and it starts up like a classic RPG, like old Dragon Quest, whatnot. And it's just got 3 save files, one that has a character's name with 9,000 hours in it, and then 2 other files which are just great, are just dead. It just says RIP. And it goes into and it starts the whole game and starts you in this like Dragon Quest Inn playing as a character, just doing crap. Fetch quest for a goddess statue. You literally go get some herbs, run back to her. She does nothing with the herbs, tells you to go look in a pot. The pot's empty. And this whole time your character's like, why am I doing this? Why can't I remember anything before coming here? And then he randomly sees somebody in the sky. He's like, is that person flying? And this person, it's one of the characters. He just sort of, it's like, oh, did I get spotted? Oh, well. And walks off. Only to have an explosion, reveal the whole thing, which is a great cut how they did this. It's just, so people come and show up to rescue, and it's just a quick cut because it's just a straight face down of like a classic 2D art style RPG, so it's flat. And then when it finally switches and the character has the reveal that this has all been fake, it switches to 2.5D and shows like everything he's been seeing is just like cardboard cutouts. It's literally just things that are painted literally on a roof. And because like if you look around, it's you can see the skyline and everything, but it's just been straight down. So it's just art that's been painting on a roof that he's believed that it's his whole world this entire time because he's been brainwashed by Zero. It's just a wild term because the story itself has been fantastic so far, and everything. Sets up a whole thing of Zero took over all of Neo Tokyo, defeated all the tribes, took over all 23 cities, created a 24th city, which is flying in the sky, which you're currently residing on. This group of people showed up to take out a system of his deadly laser satellites, which he uses to pinpoint shoot anyone he feels the need to.
So it's like the weapon from Captain America Winter Soldier, basically.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're just going to kill out any possible threat, even before they're a threat.
No, he chooses the threats.
Okay. All right.
And it has 100% accuracy.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Goes into the whole tutorial level, has you learn how to fight and things like that. So the main exploration is that sort of 2.5 16-bit, which is actually very, very nice and engaging, honestly. And then actual fights is done in a 3D action format. So everyone becomes 3D and has their weapons and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I was over here clicking through the pictures on Steam. You could, if just from those pictures, you can't tell what type of game this is.
Yeah.
half of it's like an old school RPG, and then the next picture is like an arena with shit happening everywhere. And I'm like, this game isn't a game. It doesn't know what it is.
It does, though, because... So
it's super unique.
That's the combat part is the 3D arena, and the actual exploration is done in that 2.5D.
Okay.
In which it doesn't really explain it, but yeah. And then it's also got his visual novel aspect, just because the creator is very much does these different play styles with the visual novel aspect, which is fairly also
Nothing
normal.
wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah, all just to lead to you go through all this stuff, learn the combat and things like that to get to the escape pods, only for the big bad to show up, Zero, and be like, "Hey, what's going on, guys?" He's just there to mess with them. Quite literally, he's just there to mess with them. And he destroys all the escape pods with his giant laser. They're all like, "But we destroyed the system." Yeah, I can just control it with my mind. That was sort of just a external thing for show. More or less does a whole bitten thing about he's overly powerful. They can't really do anything to stop him. But he's kept your character, locked on his brainwashed rooftop for 2 years to train him to be to compete against him in a game.
So like he wants his own like rival, I guess.
No. Zero's just contempt with boredom. So to combat his boredom, he's found what he's called the numbers, which is all the people who are candidates to be the one to play him in a game to relieve him of his boredom and all his death games, in which he calls XG, but the baseball is called XB.
Okay, fine. I'm sitting over here and I'm about to interrupt you to just go, how the fuck does baseball factor into this?
I was wanting to know, how do we play baseball?
So, our main character. So, the whole story with this is like, so, as Alex mentioned earlier, Tribe 9 was set up in 23 cities. There was different tribes that controlled the cities. And before that hand, there was more or less gang wars. Everyone was killing each other. And then XB was formed, in which it became people decided conflicts through extreme baseball, which consists of challenging people, and your two teams would go up against each other. Whoever won became the winning tribe, and the other tribe had to listen to them. All right? Well, origin story from the anime, Zero shows up, white beats everybody, takes over all the cities. More or less, he hasn't extinguished XB, but he's made it irrelevant because he's now been like, hey, we got to decide things by games, and they're all death games, so if you lose, you're going to die. And also our hero, apparently 2 years ago when Zero was taking over all the cities, he managed to fight Zero to a slight standstill, but Zero still won in the end. So Zero, and he also happened to be an exceptional XB player. So during all this shenanigans at the top of the roof with the escape pods where Zero's destroying everything, he also happens to murder our hero's two best friends, which are the ones who showed up to rescue him with the crew. He lasers both of them, one through the heart, one through the head. Also, your hero has an amnesia, by the way.
Loving an amnesia hero.
So during all this, he's just like, what do we do? What do we do? We can't beat him. We can't run away. I challenge you to XB. And Joe's just like, I mean, that's a game. Sure, we'll play. And he's just like, if I win, you join in my death games and go deal with all the numbers. If you win somehow, I'll leave you all alone. I'll let you go free. Thus begins our baseball simulation.
Okay, so how do you play the baseball?
So, I'm also curious how this works because it didn't.
What a great way to start the explanation.
Well, because it didn't fully go through it because this was the tutorial, so it was just scripted. It literally just tells you bases. So like, it explains how for pitching and batting there's iconical with these series games from Danganronpa is the debate system. There's always somewhere where you debate where you're using words to fight the other opponents or whatnot. And in terms of this, for the debate on pitcher side, you had to choose a proper set of whatever words to combat whatever the opponent said to either get them to strike out or hit the ball where it's going to be caught by one of your fielders. All right. And then on the batting side, more or less, you have the 9-space section square box for batting, and more or less you choose which zone of the batting area you want to swing at, and hope and find the best words to combat whatever the pitcher's saying. And you get tells based on the words in the background whether this zone's going to be good, whether it's going to be bad, yada yada yada. But the thing that it only explains the base how that's done, and then there's a whole tension system where based on how if your plays are good or bad, it raises or lowers, and the higher it is, allows your team to show off their skills. But it didn't actually explain any stats in terms of how the runners versus offense versus defense players' stats come into effect, because if you get a hit, the ball flies, and if they don't catch an out, they can still try and stop you, because the whole thing how XB works is like normal baseball, you got to run through all the bases. But if you're running, as long as a person touches you with the hand that the ball they're holding is, you're out. On the verse, as long as you don't get touched, you're good with the ball. And the whole thing is like if two come into contact, they fight. And it didn't really explain the stats on how that's decided, just because it's scripted and Zero's OP, so he just naturally beats everyone. So that's the only thing I'm confused about XB, because I haven't played far enough in the game yet to get an actual non-scripted XB game. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know if there is currently one in the...
What you have?
Yeah, and the content that we have available. So yeah, that's how baseball is. And I also don't know how the whole thing is, because you need 9 characters to fill out the team. And as it stands, when I've played, I only got 7. And I ran out of gacha money. Because it is a gacha game, by the way.
I mean, naturally.
Just more adding to it.
Yeah.
Zach,
It's like what Steve said. Steve said, Brock, can't this game sound so intentionally convoluted, just infuriate Americans?
Zach, I knew this was going to be a gacha game, or like a you got to throw money at it game. You know how? I look at it on Steam. It says it's similar to 2 games that I play.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
First Descendant, Lost Ark.
It's gonna be free to play when it comes out. So
And I'm sitting there and I look at it and I go, oh, so you throw money at this game.
Yeah.
Yep. Quite literally. So yeah, it's been an experience. Then yeah, after you do the whole XB thing, it starts the whole thing and explains that.
Do they have Dragon Ball Z level fights in the XP like the anime did?
No, they do have nice little cutscenes of the combat, which I assume settles stats and whatnot. But it hasn't had like overly extreme, which I assume it will.
I assume so too.
Whenever it introduces how skills work in XB, because it didn't introduce skills besides Zero right at the end of the scripted XB throwing a death ball, which is just a giant purple spirit bomb.
Yeah, I see. I feel it's like it's Frieza's death ball, basically.
And MC naturally believed in the power of friendship and hit the ball.
Of course he did.
No, like straight up. Of
course he did.
Straight up during that whole final showdown with the pitching and batting, he's just like, he straight up goes Zero. It's like, it's not because you're bored, Zero. You can't enjoy XP because you have no friends.
Oh man, I guess they've recently read some fairy tale and they're just like, we really just need to implement some power of friendship in this.
Yeah, it was a thing.
And also, I want to really stress for the people listening when I keep making jokes about Dragon Ball Z, I'm fucking serious. All right, like the fight between who I thought was the MC of the series and Zero, like they were literally flying up a giant skyscraper, like like punch, like it was like a distant shot, and they're like hitting each other, flying back with like almost like aura around them. It looked like a Dragon Ball Z fight. Like that's what was taking place.
Also, by the way, of those characters from the anime in the Minato tribe, one of them is actually in the cast of this. As far as I'm concerned, everyone else is dead.
Is it the kid?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Well, which one is it?
It's the blue-haired guy who showed up after your dude died.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Shame that he died.
It also makes a thing that all the characters who were also part of tribes at one point in time, because Zero harasses all of them as each one comes up to bat, and he names them, says what tribe they are part of, and just like, and then mocks them.
God dang.
So yeah, after you lose the XB thing and have to join the XG games, so each of the numbers apparently has control of a city. Each city has a different death game. As it seems how gameplay is going to flow, you find the number, figure out what death game you're playing, and more or less find a way to get an advantage to then force them into a game of XB. Because the first city that we have access to, they were fighting number 1. His death game is flatter the president. The entire city is considered a company. Everyone is employees besides one person who's the director who can talk to the president. And you have to flatter the president to make him like you more. Because once a week, he just executes a regular employee just because he feels like it.
Just because he can.
And it's full on just Iron Maiden, shadow hands coming out of the president, pulling them into himself and stabbing him and bleeding him to death. It's quite graphic. It shows it.
Man, this game really is all over the place.
I'm going to be honest. If you go and look at the other games by the creator of this Danganronpa series, the Danganronpa games, 1, 2, and 3, and Despair Girls, as well as the one that came out on Switch, which I got to relook up the name at some point. This is standard. It seems wild to you if you've never looked into any of the games beforehand or stories. From my aspect, this is borderline standard.
This is just hitting the bar. That's all it's doing. John, you didn't play this?
Why would I play this? This doesn't sound like what I play.
Oh, this is definitely not John's game. Overall, though, I mean, the story has been very interesting and compelling. The combat, I'm hoping more comes out of it, because it's so far it's just, you get a squad of 3 that you set up, and then more or less it's just straight up fights against usually anywhere from 1 to like 6 enemies. 6 is the most I've had a fight so far, and it's just a straight beat 'em up. You can cause impairments, which allows you to chain attacks, and then everyone has ultimates. But the chain attacks are sort of a pain to pull off because you need the impairments, but pulling off impairments with most characters is sort of a pain besides one. So I hope there's some improvement in there. The combat itself, I mean, it's fine for combat, but from me coming from Zenless, which is very smooth, very aesthetically pleasing and fun to do plus watch, it's a bit lackluster. Especially with the chain system not always being as consistent depending on which characters I have in the team. When I get to an actual non-tutorial XB fight, I will let you know on that.
Okay. I mean, please do, because I am actually interested in this game.
I mean, the exploration is fairly entertaining, though. I mean, they did add Dark Soul blood splatters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so since it is a gacha mobile game, anyone who's died to a enemy around, they leave a nice criminal investigation white mark with purple blood.
Love that.
And you can see what they were running, their levels, and what they were doing. So you can be like, well, that apparently didn't work.
Right. Love that. Here for that.
Each of the characters are very unique. If John watched the trailer, each of them sort of have their own little stigma. of stuff. One's literally just rich. That's his whole stick. He's rich. He literally beats people with money.
Is that your character?
Nope.
You sure?
Yeah.
Positive?
Yeah, I haven't unlocked him.
Okay.
I got the big mercenary Gary with the hammer, though.
Love that. That's my kind of character.
Yeah, overall, the game's wild.
Okay. Was there any kind of indication when the full game was coming out?
Nope. Because this closed beta is only running for a week. They haven't said whether they're going to reset our progress for everyone who's in it. I assume they are, because they're also, for the entire week, they're giving us stuff every day in the mail just to play around with. Because they gave us a bunch of currency too and everything. Mm-hmm. So I very much assume our progress is going to be reset.
Right. That makes sense.
If not, that'll be curious to see, because we're just going to have a bunch of high-end stuff for no reason.
Right, yeah. No, it probably will be reset. That makes sense.
But in terms of actual full release, has not said yet. This is the first playtest that they have done.
So probably a year or two.
If that. I mean, from what I'm playing right now, most of the stuff is fairly fleshed out for the content they've released. Just can do quality of life and just overhaul stuff for full release to make it more smooth.
Steve said this game is just weird. This was made by a person who threw everything in the closet and tried to shut the door instead of actually cleaning their room.
That's where you're wrong, Steve. They didn't throw everything in the closet. They threw everything into a cooking pot, put a lid on it, stirred that bitch, cooked it for 72 hours, came back, ate it, and went, delicious.
It's like, this is peak. Oh, geez, man. Shout out to Tribe 9, dude. It was an all right anime. It was all right.
It was mid.
Didn't finish it.
If you go through the reviews, everyone's pretty much has it at mid.
Yeah, it was all right. It was all right. So I'm glad to know the game's wild and wacky. So shout out to that.